Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's My League mode. My name is Pete and today we finally complete another episode of our NBA 2K18 My League expansion series. I'm sorry that you had to wait this long for a new episode. As some of you might know, I'm currently in the process of writing my master thesis, and these past few days I have been very busy with that. I am in the final stretch, so it has priority over pretty much everything else in my life right now, and so it took me a while until I finally found some time to record. Now let's jump into things. In the last episode we completed the off-season, and we also had our first regular season game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. After a strong second half we were actually able to win that game, and today we will complete quite a few more, and we'll see whether or not that strong performance is going to last. Quick note at this point, I am already busy putting all of you guys into next year's draft class. I honestly had not expected over 500 comments on the last video. Of course, the draft class is not big enough for all of you to make an appearance, but next to the patrons there is still some room, so your chances of making it in are not that bad. And with that I would say enough talking, let's see some action. Our second game of the regular season is against the Portland Trail Blazers, who still have the backcourt duo of Lillard and McCollum in place. However, the rest of the roster is not all that impressive. Now, in the first half, this game was actually a fairly close affair, especially Lillard had a very good start and he made most of his long-range shots. Still, the Legionnaires were absolutely dominant on the boards, and as a team they also shot the ball a bit better, and all of that resulted in a small 4-point lead at halftime. Portland's good defense from the first half then became worse and worse in the second half. Anthony Davis also had a huge fourth quarter performance, and ultimately that was enough for the Legionnaires to secure a 12-point victory on the road. And as I mentioned, Davis one of the key performers here tonight. With a team-high 28 points, he put up a very efficient shooting performance, and he was very active inside and on defense, adding 12 points, 2 steals and 4 rejections. Mo Bamba's performance also not too shabby. His 21 points and 17 rebounds are impressive as well, and just like Davis, he also added 2 steals and 4 rejections. Another bright spot in this game was sharpshooter Mitch Dennis, who was very efficiently able to put up 13 points in only 17 minutes of action. Rodney Hood then once again showed some versatility, although he didn't score that much. Josh Richardson was pretty quiet in 27 minutes, and so were Bryce Johnson and Andre Flanders, our scoring options off the bench. Both of them had pretty horrible shooting nights and didn't contribute all that much. Our third and final game of this first week of NBA action then against the Memphis Grizzlies, who definitely present an interesting challenge. In Conley and Gasol, they still have 2 aging superstars on the roster, and they also added Jay Crowder in the offseason, who will likely be able to do some damage off the bench. Still, apart from that, the Grizzlies team is not all that deep, so the starters had to play heavy minutes in this one. Despite all that, Memphis was able to control the glass for the most part. The game was actually a lot closer than I had expected, and our core players all played pretty poorly. Still, we were able to sneak away with a narrow 1-point victory, but this game should serve as a wake-up call for the Legionnaires. Despite the addition of Anthony Davis, the road to the playoffs will not be a cakewalk. AD then also once again our leading scorer with a 19-point 10-rebound double-double, however shooting only 35% from the field. Guys like Rodney Hood, Bryce Johnson and even Andre Flanders shot the ball much better tonight. Tyler Ulis also with a solid performance, 9 points and 7 assists. Mohamed Bamba on the other hand had a rough time against Marc Gasol, and Josh Richardson, well, I would prefer not to talk about him tonight. Now, despite some pretty disappointing stat lines, the Legionnaires still remain unbeaten, and interestingly enough, the same is true for the Toronto Raptors. That is also our next opponent, as we will host Lowry, DeRozan, Valanciunas and company right here in Louisville. And don't let Toronto's starting lineup fool you here. The Raptors once again have a fantastic bench this year, so our backup players definitely have to step up tonight. And especially Andre Flanders answered the call in the first half. He had a very good performance off the bench and was actually the Legionnaires' leading scorer at halftime. For Toronto, it was mostly Kyle Lowry who gave us trouble. In the first half, he absolutely torched us from 3. Still, the Legionnaires go into halftime with a 7-point lead, mostly thanks to some fantastic defense and also because of a pretty impressive 54% shooting performance. The second half then once again completely belonged to the Legionnaires. They only allowed the Raptors to score 39 second half points. Josh Richardson finally found his groove on offense and made some big plays, and from a 7-point lead at halftime, the Legionnaires built their lead up to 22 and comfortably beat the Raptors 107-85. And Josh Richardson back where he belongs at the top of the scoring list. With 26 points, he was arguably the Legionnaires' best player tonight, and especially in the second half, the Raptors didn't really have an answer for him. Anthony Davis also once again reliably able to put up double figures. Andre Flanders then a bit quiet in the second half after a strong first half, while Bryce Johnson, Rodney Hood, Mo Bamba and Tyler Ulis all put up decent stat lines as well. Especially Ulis did a great job as a playmaker tonight, dishing out a game-high 11 assists. So the Legionnaires remain undefeated and take the lead in the Eastern Conference. The next game, however, will not be an easy one. We are hosting the Los Angeles Clippers next, who are able to field what is actually one of the better starting lineups in the league at the moment. 5 80-plus players start for the Clippers, including their 2 stars Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, so our big men, who I believe are the key to success for the Legionnaires, will definitely not have it easy. Also nice to see here former Legionnaire Mo Harkless as the 6th man off the bench for the Clippers. And while our big men in fact didn't have an easy time on offense, the team as a whole did a tremendous job on defense. We held the Clippers to only 38% shooting from the field, we also forced them to commit 21 turnovers while staying out of foul trouble, and all of that was enough to come away with the 5th victory in 5 games. AD, the only big man who came to play tonight with 22 points and 11 rebounds, but even he had his troubles, you can see it here, 5 turnovers, also unable to block a single shot in 29 minutes. The stronger, more physical frontcourt duo of Griffin and Jordan definitely put in the work tonight. The bulk of the scoring load therefore remained on the shoulders of our shooting guards, and both Andre Flanders and Josh Richardson did a pretty good job. Flanders had 17 points and 7 rebounds in only 21 minutes. Yes, his outside shot wasn't really falling tonight, but his scoring impact off the bench a big factor in the victory tonight. Mohamed Bamba, meanwhile, a perfect representation of the offensive struggles our big men faced tonight, shooting only 1 of 5 from the field with 4 turnovers, but still able to put in the effort on defense where he grabbed 10 rebounds and blocked 5 shots. Our next game now once again a battle of the undefeated teams, however the Chicago Bulls only had the opportunity to play twice this season. That will now change as they have 2 games against us in the span of only 3 days, and we are definitely looking at a very interesting roster here in Chicago, and I actually see some similarities to ours. 1 star player here in the DeMarcus Cousins and then lots of great role players. Also a young up-and-comer in Lauri Markkanen. On our roster that will be Andre Flanders. All in all, this could definitely be an interesting game. In the end though, what should I say? It wasn't. We more or less dominated this one from beginning to end. We even had time to experiment a bit tonight with Rodney Hood at the point guard, a role that actually fits him surprisingly well. His 6'8" frame is definitely a problem for opposing point guards. Despite his natural position as a wing player, he is a very reliable playmaker. He might not be as quick as other point guards, but from what I saw tonight, he still defends well enough, and most importantly, he is consistently able to make his open shots. And that was also what Hood did exceptionally well tonight. He made 7 3-pointers in this game and finished with a game-high 27 points. This game right here definitely a performance to prove his worth. The rest of the box score then remains fairly unsurprising. Anthony Davis once again finishes with a nice double-double. Richardson also once again with his usual scoring output, while Ulis and Dennis complete the list of players in double figures, and Mo Bamba once again with a bit of a quiet night. I had no doubt the arrival of Davis would hurt his stat lines a bit, but especially the rebounds and blocks tonight are well below Bamba's season averages. Just 2 days later then, we have the exact same matchup again. We even stay in Chicago for this one, and in attempt number 2, the Bulls actually succeed. The 14-point loss for the Legionnaires here more than deserved in my opinion. Apart from Richardson, no one really came to play. The Bulls punished us with a great shooting performance and exceptional defense, and especially Anthony Davis was nowhere to be seen tonight. With 20 points, Richardson therefore very clearly the best performer tonight. Most of the other double-digit scorers actually came off the bench, as Andre Flanders finishes the game with 12, and Mitch Dennis and Deontay Davis both put up 11. An honorable mention tonight goes to backup point guard Chris Dunn, who really had a solid performance and received a good amount of minutes, and who finished the game with 5 points, 3 rebounds and 7 assists. So that already completes the month of October, and we have another interesting 3-game stretch ahead of us. We play the Sixers twice, and that is also how we begin the week, and Philadelphia actually had a surprisingly poor start to the season. Looking at their roster, a 3-3 record is definitely below the expectations. Now, one thing that might have hurt them quite a bit is the loss of Paul Millsap, who unfortunately suffered a torn meniscus. At the age of 35, Millsap was by no means a star in Philadelphia. Still, the team is apparently somewhat struggling without him. Against us, they showed no signs of that, however. In the first quarter, they were just raining three-pointers, and the only thing that actually kept us in the game in the first half was a monster second quarter from Bryce Johnson, who scored 19 points in just over 10 minutes of action. Still, at halftime, the Legionnaires are already down by 7, and it would only get worse in the second half. Anthony Davis once again could not hit anything tonight, and it speaks volumes that he still somehow managed to be our second best scorer in this one. In the end, Philadelphia with an absolute blowout in the second half, and the Legionnaires lose their second game in a row, 100-79. Bryce Johnson's 19 second quarter points then actually enough to make him our top scorer in this one, followed, as I mentioned, by Anthony Davis, who shot an abysmal 6 of 21 from the field, and who finished the game with 14 points and 12 rebounds. More horrible shooting than from Andre Flanders with 5 of 13, Richardson with 4 of 12, and Mo Bamba was pretty bad as well with 2 of 9. On a 2-game losing streak, the Legionnaires now head into the next game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who admittedly also did not have the greatest start to the season. After once again making the finals last season, they currently sit at a pretty horrible 2-6 record, and you can see it here. Westbrook and George are the clear stars in OKC. The rest of the roster, however, does not look like a winning team. Former Legionnaire Derek White was actually picked up by the Thunder, however he is currently residing on the injured list, and so is big man Steven Adams, who will also be out tonight, which should hopefully make this game a lot easier for us. And yes, for a change the game actually went as expected. The Thunder just had too many weaknesses for us to exploit. A total of 6 Legionnaires were able to score in double figures tonight. 3 of our guys actually put up double-doubles. All in all, it was a great team effort, going up against a fairly dysfunctional team. Our scoring leader tonight, Mohamed Bamba, with a 19-point and 10-rebound double-double, finally back with a good performance. I was a bit worried about him. Andre Flanders then once again taking a few too many outside shots. That of course hurt his shooting numbers a bit, still he was able to put up 16, and both AD and surprisingly also Josh Richardson were able to finish with double-doubles. And especially Richardson deserves a mention here. Next to 12 points and 10 rebounds, he also put up 5 assists, 4 steals on the block. Yes, I know his shooting numbers not the best, but he was without a doubt a huge factor in the win tonight. Rodney Hood, by the way, once again saw some minutes at the point guard in this game, and even going up against an elite point guard like Russell Westbrook, I actually liked what I saw. I don't think Hood will be able to start at the point guard for us, but should the rotation on the wings get too crowded, I could definitely see him play point guard for about 10 to maybe 15 minutes a night. And with the next game against the Sixers on the horizon, that rotation is actually what I want to talk about for a brief moment. Now, we have only played 9 games so far this season, so these are just a few hot takes. Still, there are some things I like and some things that could be better. I am, for example, very happy with Josh Richardson, who still seems to be one of the most reliable scorers on the team. I also think the addition of Anthony Davis is working out quite well for us, although AD also had a concerning number of games where he definitely underperformed. I am not too worried about that at the moment. Like I said, the season is still fairly young. Andre Flanders then is a guy who I had hoped would make some kind of a jump performance-wise, and while he is scoring a bit more, the field goal percentages are still pretty bad. Once again, he might need to grow a bit more accustomed to his increased role on the team, but to be honest, I expected the battle between him and Richardson to be a bit more competitive. At the moment, Richardson has the clear edge, and unless Flanders improves dramatically, things will remain that way. All in all, our rotation might also be a tiny bit too crowded at the moment. Especially down low, I often struggle to give adequate minutes to everyone. Deontay Davis is currently the one suffering the most from that. The guy could definitely be a starting caliber defensive-minded center on a number of teams in the league. For us, most of the time he only sees about 15 minutes a night, which I imagine is not making him incredibly happy. In the end though, we don't have much to complain about. The Legionnaires had a fantastic start to the season, they are the first seed in the East, and once again, the season is still young and we shouldn't overreact based on the results after just 9 games. And with that, I would say we have reached a good point to make the cut in today's episode. In the next one, we will hopefully get our revenge against the Sixers, and we will also likely get a much clearer picture of how competitive the Legionnaires can be in the East. Before we wrap things up, I also want to give a quick shout out to all the new patrons who have joined since the last time I did this. So a big thank you goes out to Wade B. Crane, Julian Renouf, Griffin Jones, Pinky, Matthias Pirkowski, Daniel Krala, Travis Kochi, Dex Remgulam, Jared Keel, Luis Aranas, Alistair Hurst, Justin Gwynn, Benjamin Buxbaum, Martin Zolotar, Carsten Schwarz and Colonel Gork. Thank you all so much for your support. You will hopefully all find yourselves happy with your role in next year's draft class. And with that, we have officially reached the end of today's episode. As always, if you liked it, I would be happy if you could leave a thumbs up. And you know the drill, if you want to support the channel, you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can support the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!